The current buzz around online conversations suggests there's something much deeper happening. While many were fixated on Caitlin Clark's potential departure from Indiana, her agent, Erin Kane, had an entirely different approach in mind. Rather than merely managing a dissatisfied rookie, she was strategically setting up a case that could completely alter the future of the WNBA. What you're about to hear isn't based on official statements or public press releases. It's about piecing together digital clues and sifting through the noise of rumors to uncover a much larger story than just one player's contract. I'm Jackson Riley, and for a while now, I've been closely observing the evolving narratives in the WNBA. These are the behind-the-scenes stories that have a real impact on the league. What I've uncovered about Kane's approach over the past few months isn't just impressive, it's groundbreaking. She meticulously took every instance of coaching issues, injury mismanagement, and Clark's visible frustrations and turned them into ammunition for future collective bargaining negotiations that could reshape the way future stars are treated in the league. Let's break this down. The WNBA Players Association made the bold decision to opt out of their collective bargaining agreement, setting the stage for talks that will determine the league's direction through 2030 and beyond. But this isn't just about salary increases. It's about making structural changes to how players are supported, developed, and respected within their teams. But here's the part that many missed. Erin Kane didn't wait for those negotiations. To begin, the moment Caitlin Clark walked onto the Indiana Fever's practice court, Kane began quietly documenting every coaching move, every injury, and every comment from Clark regarding the team's limitations. She wasn't just documenting problems, she was gathering evidence of systemic failures that would become the foundation for stronger player protections under the new CBA. Let's look at the timeline. Clark suffered a groin injury in early June. Instead of keeping it under wraps, Kane allowed details to surface about how the coaching staff initially downplayed its seriousness. Then came the quad injury, sparking more questions about whether proper protocols were followed. This wasn't just about Clark's health, it was about laying out a pattern of organizational mismanagement that Kane could use to push for better medical care, injury protocols, and overall player rights in the new CBA. And when it came to the coaching issues with Stephanie White, Kane had even more to work with. Clark's public comment about needing better transition play wasn't just a frustrated rookie speaking. It was proof that Clark's talents were being stifled by a coaching system focused on control rather than player development. This gave Kane further evidence that the current CBA language didn't adequately account for player input on tactical decisions. But Kane's true brilliance lay in how she handled the media. Rather than trying to suppress negative stories, she let them grow. Every article, every critique of Clark's injuries, every question about White's decisions became part of a much bigger narrative about why the WNBA needed stronger protections for its players. From my perspective, this wasn't just about one player. Kane was using Clark's situation as a case study for potential changes that could benefit every player in the league. The infamous photo of Clark at Barclays Center, which many viewed as recruitment or tampering, was actually Kane, showing that other teams recognized Clark's value, something Indiana failed to do. More importantly, it was a visual message about the kind of respect and professional treatment that should be standard for every player in the league. So, what did Kane achieve? The new CBA talks have brought forward groundbreaking proposals for injury management. There are new standards for medical staff qualifications, mandatory second opinions for major injuries, and policies that give players more control over treatment decisions. These weren't arbitrary ideas, they were direct responses to what Kane documented during Clark's rookie season. Kane's strategy didn't just change policies for Clark, it created a blueprint that other agents are starting to follow. The careful tracking of team failures, the strategic use of media coverage, and the reframing of individual player issues as league-wide systemic problems have now become a new standard in high-level player representation. Now, let's enter the realm of rumors. While nothing's confirmed, there's chatter suggesting Kane's documentation of Clark's rookie season became mandatory reading for CBA committee members. Her detailed breakdown of how the league failed to properly support its most marketable player likely influenced multiple policy proposals. What's key here is how Kane framed these issues, not as personal grievances, but as opportunities for growth and improvement that would benefit the entire league. The WNBA's CBA negotiations earlier this year included terms that, before Kane's groundwork, would have seemed impossible. These include higher standards for medical care, player development protocols, and mechanisms for player feedback on coaching. These weren't abstract discussions, they were practical. actionable responses to the real-world challenges Clark faced during her first season. But Kane's influence didn't stop at Clark's situation. She set a new precedent for how agents can use the documentation of team failures to drive league-wide change, and others are taking notice. Sources suggest that Kane's work could have even influenced the broader culture within the league. New expectations are emerging for how player treatment and player rights should be handled. Coaches, front offices, and organizations are now more aware that an individual player's treatment can become a much bigger conversation, potentially sparking league-wide policy shifts. The biggest change, though, is in how players are represented. No longer is it just about negotiating contracts. Agents are now focusing on systematically documenting every issue and strategically positioning individual player concerns as catalysts for change. This shift in approach is already creating ripples throughout the league, and Kane's influence is impossible to ignore. Looking forward, the next round of CBA negotiations will undoubtedly reflect these new expectations. What Kane has done shows that when player issues are methodically documented and strategically leveraged, they can be used to create systemic change. The policies that emerged from Clark's rookie year weren't just about fixing one player's situation, they were designed to improve conditions for every future WNBA player. So, as we look ahead, it's clear that Kane's playbook is now being followed by others. But can they replicate her success? Will they be as strategic with timing? Will they document as thoroughly and as effectively? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain: Kane's influence has already changed the WNBA forever. She didn't just advocate for her clients, she changed the way players are treated, setting a new standard for player representation across all of professional sports.